Hello, my name is Danielle. I'm an employment coach here at the Multicultural Association of Fredericton. And today's group session is going to be on goal setting. So we're going to look at some tips and some strategies to help you set goals for your career. So before we get into the content, I want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional unceded territory of the Wolastoqiyik, whose ancestors, along with the Mi'kmaq and Passamaquoddy nations, signed friendship and peace treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. So here are the things that we're going to cover today. So first, we'll look at what is a goal. What does that mean? We'll look at a definition and some different types of goals. Number two, what is goal setting? So we'll look at the process and the 5 principles for goal setting. And then number 3, we'll look at the 5 essential steps of goal setting and look at some strategies that you can use. Number 4, I'll give you some tips on achieving your goals, which include time management, motivation, visualization, and reviewing your goals. And then finally, we'll look at goal setting as a skill. So you can practice goal setting and develop this transferable skill that you can then add to your resume as a very valuable competence. So first, what is a goal? A goal is a dream with a deadline. So it's a clear, intentioned, and purposeful statement that describes what you aspire to accomplish. So what do you want to do, what do you want to be, and what do you want to have? And the very unique thing about this that makes it different from a dream or a wish is that you put a deadline on it. So you have a time frame for which to achieve this, this goal. So a couple of different categories of goals. There's short-term versus long-term goals. So short-term goals can be accomplished within 6 months to 3 years, usually. It could be a little bit less than that, depending on the complexity of the goal and how many steps that are needed. Some short-term goals can take 3 months. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. A long-term examples of short-term goals could be to find a job. So usually people will give themselves a few months to find a job. So getting through that process of creating a resume, doing a job search, writing cover letters, and all of that, that usually takes a few months to do. So that would be an example of a short-term goal. A long-term goal, on the other hand, can take upwards of 5 to 10 years. So these are goals that will take a long time and will have multiple steps within them in order to reach that ultimate end. So an example of a long-term goal could be to get a bachelor's degree. So if you have not started your bachelor's degree, it takes about 4 years if you're doing it full time. So that would be a more long-term goal. Another example of a long-term goal could be, to buy a home in the next 5 years. So giving yourself the time to be financially stable and save up some money so that you can buy a home in 5 years. So those are types of long-term goals. So they take a lot more time, and we usually break them down into smaller short-term goals in order to keep us motivated to get to that final step. And then we have performance versus mastery goals. So this is really looking at what the final outcome is. So a performance goal focuses on an outcome. So if you're looking to get a job, so that's something that's an outcome. If you're looking at increasing your sales to a certain number, that would be an outcome. That would be a performance. So you're looking at what is the result of my efforts. Whereas a mastery goal focuses on skill development. So it's looking more at growth. So you want to get better at something specific. For instance, if you were an athlete, you would want to have a better time in your sprint or something like that. So you would start with a certain level of skill and then either take some courses if you're trying to master something like Microsoft Office products. So you would be developing that skill so that you would get better, not necessarily reach a certain threshold. And if anybody has any questions while we're going through here, I'm going to pause after every slide, so you can put them in the chat or just unmute yourself.
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay, so now moving on to goal setting. What is goal setting? So it is a process. It's a process of reflection, of brainstorming, of narrowing down your options, of creation, and of action planning. So your goal setting is how you're going to get to that, that statement of what your goal is. So Locke and Latham have created these 5 principles of goal setting based on the research. So the first one is commitment. So it is your attachment to your goal and your determination to reach it. So how important it is to you, how much effort you're willing to put in. So it's really important in order to be successful in reaching your goals to be committed to them. So that's why this process is so important, because you need to choose things that are actually going to be motivating to you, be empowering to you, and make you want to grow. Number 2 is clarity. So goals need to be clear, precise, and unambiguous, implicit and measurable. So it's all well and good to say that your goal is to be successful, but what does that actually mean? So putting in more detail or really making the goal specific to you and your situation. Number 3 is challenging. So a goal should be challenging but attainable. If it's too easy, then you'll get through it really quickly, and then you'll have to be doing goal setting again. If it's too difficult, then you may not be motivated to continue towards that goal because it's too much. So one thing that you can do if you're looking at attaining something that's really long-term or complex or challenging, such as completing a PhD, and you're just starting out your bachelor's degree, that's going to take a long time. So what you can do is break down that really long-term goal into smaller short-term goals to help you get over that hump and keep you motivated to keep going towards that bigger goal. Number 4 is task complexity. So as I just mentioned, so if your goal is really complex, it's going to take more time, it's going to take more steps in order to achieve it. That doesn't mean that you can't set complex goals. It just means that you have to have, you need to have the expectation that it's going to take longer. And then finally, number 5 is feedback. The goal setting and achievement are more effective when there's immediate feedback. So if you're going through your action plan, you're taking the steps you need, but maybe it's taking longer than you expected, or it's shorter than you expected. So that's giving you feedback to adjust your action plan or your goal in total. So if something's working, great. If something's not working, you can make an adjustment. So staying in tune with where you are in your action plan, where you are in your goal path, will help you to be more successful. Any questions on that slide with the goal setting? Oh, okay. So we're going to look at 5 essential steps to goal setting. So the first one is self-reflection, and we'll look at these all individually in a few slides. Then a brainstorm, narrow down, strategies, and then creating an action plan. So one thing to note here is that you can use goal setting in any aspect of your life. It's not just for your career. So you could use it for wellness, if you want to lose weight, if you want to eat healthier, if you, in your social life, if you want to connect with friends more, or spend more time with family. So you could set goals such as eating dinner with your family 4 out of 7 days of the week. That would be a goal. What else? You could set a goal to run a marathon or something more physical. So this process, not only can you use it for your career, we're going to talk about more of a career focus in this session. However, you can use this process in for any goal in any area of your life. All right, so number 1, self-reflection. So this is the first step, and it's a chance for you to look inward and ask yourself really important questions that will help you determine what goals you actually want to accomplish. So it's incredibly difficult to set a goal, something that you want to accomplish, if you haven't assessed what you believe is important and worthwhile for your life. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself are, where am I now? It's good to have a starting point. What are you doing now? What is your employment status? What are your skills now? What are your qualifications now? Your competencies? What do you have now? Then what do you want to accomplish? What do I want? Where do I want to go? What do I bring to the table? What are your strengths? What do I want my life, my home, my work, etc. to look like? What do I want to do and feel more of in my life? What words, phrases, or quotes make me feel good and empowered? What do I want now? What do I want in a few months? And then what do I want in a few years? So this is really just a starting point for you to start looking at what is important to you, where you want to go, not only in the short term, but also in the long term, which that will then help you choose goals that are relevant to where you would like to be in the future. All right, number 2 is brainstorm. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab a piece of paper or open a file on your computer, and you're going to write down everything you want to do, be, and have. It doesn't matter if it's realistic, if it's not, if it's attainable or not, if it's silly or professional or anything at all. You're going to take some time to look at your self-reflection and then write down all the things you would like to accomplish in your life. So these could be career, health, wellness, travel, your social life, etc. You can use Post-its, you can use poster board, you can use a journal, a spreadsheet on the computer. I really like to be creative when I'm doing this kind of brainstorm. So I'll get a sheet of paper and I'll get all colors of the rainbow so that I can make it look really fun. So any and all ideas are welcome in the brainstorming step. You don't have to think about, can I actually do this? Just write it down. Okay, now step 3. This is the part where you're going to take your big list, your big collage of ideas, and you're going to choose up to 3 things you've brainstormed to focus on. So having too many goals can be really overwhelming, and it may be discouraging and decrease your motivation if you have too many things to think about. So you're going to prioritize the goals that you want to achieve first, or that hold the most value to you. And then you're going to do some research. What do you need to achieve this goal? So if you're looking at getting a specific job, you can look up what the market is like, look up some job opportunities and see what the ads say, do some research on that. What you could do if you're looking at education, you can try and find the programs that are being offered and what do you need to get in, what is the cost, anything like that. So you're going to do some research to find out how do you actually achieve this goal. So even after you've decided on 1 to 3 goals, you can always adjust your choices after you do some research. If you realize while you're going through the information that this is really not what you wanted, or it's going to take more time than you thought, you can adjust your expectations. You can adjust if you would like to pursue that now or wait later, or choose something else to focus on at the moment. So if you have a goal that will take more energy and time to achieve, you may choose to only focus on that particular goal instead of 2 or 3. And then similarly, if you choose one goal, but discover that you have the resources to pursue a second goal, you can make that adjustment and choose another item from your brainstorm list. All right, we are going to look at these goal setting strategies that will help you formulate that goal statement. So the ones we're going to look at is SMART goals or smarter goals, hard goals, WHOOP goals, the goal tree, and then I'll give you some other strategies that are different and not as common, but that you can still use. All right, so we're going to start off with your smarter goals. Some people may have heard of SMART goals. I really like to add the ER, and I'll tell you about that when we get to those letters. So the S stands for specific. So your goals must be specific. As I said earlier, the goal of wanting to be successful is great, but what does that actually mean to you? So you're going to put in more detail. You're going to take an inventory. Okay, success. Like, what does that look like for me? Another example of the specificity is choosing numbers. So you can use numbers as a benchmark for what you're achieving your goal. So examples of what is success to you, it could be making a certain salary. It could be having work-life balance. It could be having many employees, so being an employer. It could be having loyal customers. It could be being able to travel wherever you want. Or it could be getting a certain grade in a course. So you really need to be specific, and that will give you some clarity. And if you're sharing your goals with someone else, which is recommended to help you be accountable, it will give them a better idea of what you're actually trying to accomplish. The M stands for measurable. So you must be able to measure your goals in order to know if you are achieving them. So for some goals, you can use specific numbers, as I said before, to measure your goal achievement. So for example, it could be a salary or a wage. It could be the number of clients. It could be a sales goal. It could be a grade. If you're looking at skills, so it could be that if you're learning, let's say, about Microsoft Word, and at the beginning, all you can really do is just open a file and type. So a measurable way to assess if you're getting better at Microsoft Word is to be able to use all of the tabs or be able to format a document in a certain way. So those are ways that you can make your goal measurable and be able to actually know if you're getting closer to your goal. The A is for achievable. So your goal should be something that you can achieve within the time you assign to your goal. So it would not be achievable or attainable for you to say, I'm going to get a master's degree in the next 3 years when you don't even have a bachelor's degree. That just doesn't make sense. It's not possible. So you need to make sure that it makes sense. It is possible. And that is something that you can actually do in the time that you're giving to it. So for example, if somebody had the goal to be the CEO of Apple, a really big company, well, there can only be one CEO of Apple at any time. And you would have to move to another country, get a job at Apple, work there for many, many years, and you may never actually get the opportunity to be CEO because the position never opens up. And there's too many other people that are higher up than you for you to get considered for that job. So a more achievable goal would be to be the CEO of an IT company, or be the CEO of your own company, or maybe work at an innovative company like Apple. So it's adjusting that expectation in order to make your goal actually achievable. Okay. Moving on to R. R stands for realistic or relevant. So your goal should make sense for the future you want, and it should match with your growth. So you want to ask yourself if the goal you're setting makes sense for the future you want and will help develop the skills you want to develop. So it would be all well and good to say, I want to, my goal is to complete a bachelor's degree in science, but what you actually want to do is to go into business. And the skill set that you will develop doing your bachelor's degree in science is not necessarily relevant to what you actually want to do in the future. So it just needs to, you need to make sure that your goal actually lines up with a pathway that you want to take. Okay, and then T, which stands for time bound. So your goal needs a timeline. You need to figure out how much time are you going to devote to this goal. As I said in earlier slides, you have short-term and long-term goals. So depending on what you choose to focus on, it will kind of dictate how much time you will need to give to that. And you're also going to look at, do I need to work on this every single day? Do I have weekly goals? Do I have monthly goals or monthly steps that I need to take? So that's also part of that, creating that timeline is the steps that are in between you, where you are now and where you want to get to. And we'll talk about that action planning in a few slides. Now the ER part of smarter. I really like these 2 points because it gives you some flexibility to make changes. And that's really important with goal setting. If you recognize that you're going through your action plan and something is not working or it's not lining up with what you had originally planned, you are absolutely allowed to change things. You are allowed to make adjustments. You're allowed to take things out, to put things in. That is completely okay and actually part of goal setting. So the E stands for empowering. So your goals should help you to accomplish what you really want, and reaching them will make you feel more empowered and confident. And then the R, the final R stands for reviewable. So it's that idea that you can take the feedback from your goal setting and your goal process and make adjustments. So you should always be able to review your goals and make changes according to your progress and your circumstances. You should schedule a time to revisit your goals regularly. So circumstances change, the job market changes, your interests and desires may change. Perhaps a goal will take longer to achieve than you expected. So you have the ability to adjust your timeline to accommodate the extra energy that's needed. Perhaps you get sick and you're not able to achieve the goal you set for now, but you can put that goal aside and create another one to focus on for now. And then scheduling your time. You want to schedule weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly reviews of your goals. And that gives you a chance to kind of see where you're at and get some feedback. What have you completed this section of your during this time? Do you need to change something? Do you need to add some steps? Do you need to make your goal more or less specific so that it is attainable? So these are all questions that you can ask yourself when you're reviewing your goals. Okay, here is another goal setting strategy. So it's a hard goal. So the H stands for heartfelt. So why do you want this goal? And why is it important to you? So you're tapping into that emotional attachment. Why is this something that you want to do? Your A stands for animated. So you're looking at, what are you doing 1 year from now, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now? You're looking to the future. There's growth and change. What does it look like? The R stands for required. So these are your action steps. What do you need to do to stay on track to your goal? What do you need to do today, in 30 days, in 90 days, in 6 months? That's that action planning piece that we're going to look at in the next step. And then D stands for difficult. So your goal should be an opportunity for growth. That's why we set goals. So they need to be challenging enough to help you grow, but not so challenging that they become too difficult and you lose motivation. So, so you're going to ask yourself, what are the 3 to 5 most important skills you'll need to develop to achieve this goal? And then how will you develop them? So that's also part of your action planning piece. Okay, another acronym strategy. So these are WHOOP goals. So your W stands for wish. So you're going to attach positive feelings to your goal. Again, we're tapping into that emotional importance of the goal. Why do you want to do this? The first O stands for outcome. So you're going to visualize the best possible result. What is it? You can close your eyes and imagine it. You can write it down. You can draw it. You can find an image to represent it. What does it look like to have the best possible result and achieve your goal the way that you want to? The second O stands for obstacle. So what may prevent you or slow down success? What could stand in your way? So it could be things like external factors, such as the market trends, any available opportunities, financial restrictions, other people in your world, your responsibilities as a parent, a spouse, a family member, a friend, or within your work. And then another one could be like something like procrastination is your own motivation to get going that could stand in your way. And then the P stands for plan. So you're going to find solutions to those obstacles. Once you've figured out what could stand in your way, you need to have some strategies to alleviate those obstacles. So for example, if you have financial restrictions to taking a workshop or going back to school, maybe you make a financial plan and find out what kind of financial aid you can get. So that can be part of your research process, looking at solutions to that problem. And then another example would be if you have familial responsibilities. So if you have children that you need to take care of, perhaps you can reach out to family and friends for help. So it's taking those obstacles you've identified and finding ways to resolve those. Here is a more visual strategy. It's called a goal tree. It's used most commonly with teams or groups of people. But the idea is that you put an end goal at the top, and then each either individual has an objective to reach, or you have multiple kind of areas that need to come together in order to get to that ultimate goal. So for example, if your end goal was to increase employee retention, you're an employer, you have a company, and you're seeing a lot of turnover. So the end goal, increase employee retention. So objective 1, the first thing you're going to do, one of the things you're going to do is to create a wellness initiative. So that's one thing that you can do. And then down here, you would write down the necessary conditions. So for this particular example, it would be to create a program, hire somebody to deliver it, maybe provide some training, something like that. And then objective 2, for an example, would be to learn about the employee experience. So if your end goal is to keep employees in your company, you might need to know what is happening for them to leave. So the conditions would be to do an employee survey, do exit surveys, do team meetings where you get input from your employees. So that's another step. And these can go on concurrently and then all come together for that end goal. Now, objective 3, if we had this example of retaining employees, number 3 might be to raise wages. So the conditions for that objective is that you'll have to do an analysis of the current wages, do some research on average wages in the country or the province, do an analysis of financial ability. Are you actually able to provide this wage increase? And then objective 4, example would be to do a team building initiative. So the conditions would be to check out available resources, create and plan events, get employee input, things like that. So then once you have all 4 of these completed, which could happen all at the same time or one after the other, you would have your wellness initiative, you're learning about employee experiences, raising the wages, and doing team building initiatives. When all of those 4 come together, then you should be able to get to the end goal of employee retention. So this is really useful in a more of a group environment, but you can use it individually if you would like. I just want to note, I'm giving you all of these strategies and not all of them will work for you. So goal setting is a really personal process. So if something looks like crazy to you and you're really not getting it, then maybe that's not the strategy for you. Maybe you try something different. So here's some other strategies that are a bit different that you might want to look into more if you're interested. So there's objectives and key results goals, OKR. And these are usually for large groups. So company-wide initiatives or goals. A micro goal. So this is multiple smaller goals. So you could and you probably should use micro goals in order to break down your large goal. So a micro goal, for example, would be like your to-do list, the things that you do daily in order to get to another step. Backwards goals, we'll look at a visual tool for this as well. But it's putting your ultimate goal at the top or your end goal, and then working backwards. What would come right before that goal? And then working backwards again. What are the steps, one after the other, that would come before the ultimate goal? A values-based goal. So this is really based on what you consider important. And we're referring here to the reason you're choosing certain goals. So it's about your own values, your own personal beliefs, and what you personally consider important. And then we have one-word goals. So these are really used for motivation, and you're looking at the intention or the attitude for approaching your goals. So they could be something like patience. Your goal is patience. That's pretty broad, but it's gonna clue you into what your actual goal is. So maybe you're looking for a job and it's taking a long time because there's a lot of steps. So you can use your word patience to help you to kind of reset and check your expectations and be like, okay, well, we're at this step, and then it might take a week to hear back about this job. So I just need some patience. It could be drive. If you have something that's very difficult and that you need to devote a lot of energy to daily, then maybe it's drive, maybe it's get going, maybe it's grow. So it's just a one word that will help, that kind of describes part of your goal and will help you to stay motivated to continue. So as I said, you can try different strategies. There's maybe one strategy works for your career goals, but another works better for your wellness and relationship goals. There's no one right way to do goal setting. So these steps and strategies are just tools that you can use to make the process simpler and promote achievement of your goals. Because that's really the goal of this whole thing is for you to get to where you actually want to go. How you get there might be different for each person. Okay, and then number 5 is the last step, and that is creating an action plan. In order to reach your goals, you need a plan. Just like if you were going on a trip, you would need an itinerary or some kind of plan to get there. So what are the steps you need to take to achieve your goals? You're going to break down your big goal into smaller goals. And those smaller goals will help you to stay motivated, especially if you're working toward a long-term goal. As I said earlier, that may take 3 to 5 years to accomplish or even longer. So breaking down your big goal will also give you a roadmap, which will guide you and keep you on track and accountable. So here we have backwards goals. I talked about that in the last slide, but you put your ultimate goal at the top and then you work backwards. A goal ladder is similar. However, you don't have to work backwards if you already know all the steps you need. So you put your ultimate goal at the top, and then for each rung of the ladder, you write a smaller goal that will help you get to your big goal. So it's really that visual of you're going up the ladder. Each step gets you closer and closer and closer to the top of the ladder. And I have a visual tool that you can use that I'll show you in a second. And there's other visual tools. So for goal setting, it's so important for you to either to write down your goals and have something available that you can go back to. If it's all in your head, it might get jumbled up. You might forget steps, and you might not realize that you're making progress, which can be really, really difficult if you feel like you're not getting anywhere. So having it written down either on paper, virtually, I like to use creative strategies. So like a vision board, I'll show you that in a second. But it's about having something to look at that can tell you, yes, you're making progress, or no, you're not. So you need to make some adjustments. So other visual tools would be a vision board, the chalkboard method, which we'll talk about, using a worksheet or a spreadsheet that you can find online. You can draw a sketch, or even there's this strategy of a 3-tier sketch system. So we'll look at those each individually, briefly. So here's an example of a worksheet that you could use to do backwards goals. So this one ends 5 years into the future. So 5 years into the future, where would you like to be? And then 4 years into the future, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. So it gives you a little bit of an idea, what do I need to do in order to get to that 5th year? Here's an example of a goal ladder. So you'll put your goal at the top, and then each step, you're working your way up the ladder. So you could do this very visually and have like a little person that you can move up the ladder if you would like. I do often use colored pencils or markers to fill in spaces so that I know, okay, I've completed this step, now I'm moving on to the next one. And it's a really good motivational tool when you can actually see your progress. Here is a vision board. So this is more of a visual, creative way of putting your goals down on paper. You can use a large piece of paper or a poster board, or there's even a virtual program that you can use. You can divide it into areas of your life that you want to focus on for the next year. It is usually for a 1-year period that you will do your vision board. You write down goals for each section, and it doesn't need to be pretty at this point because you're going to be covering them up. So what you do afterwards is you find magazines or books or print things off of the internet that represent your goals. Then you're going to organize them on your sheet or your poster or your virtual program, whatever, and then you glue them down. And then you're going to put your vision board where you can see it every day. So it can remind you of your goals and help motivate you. So this is something that I've done. I found it effective for that particular time in my life. Now I think it might just be a fun art project. I'm not sure if I would choose the vision board for my goals now. Here on the right is the chalkboard method. So what you do is you write your big goal at the top. So this is an example from a therapist, a clinician. So they are trying to fill their practice with 20 sessions per week. So have a full caseload. And then you write 3 words that you want to focus on while you go through this process. So this person chose joyful, calm, and productive. Now these words can be anything that keeps you positive and encouraged to keep going in your process. And then what you're going to do is draw a visual representation of your tasks. So for example, here, this person has put bring in 5 new clients, and then they put 5 ovals that represent each client. So as they accomplish that, as they bring in a client, and they can fill in this bubble, which gives them a visual that they've accomplished something. And then once all the bubbles are full, then they've reached that smaller goal within the big goal. Here, there's a goal of writing 6 articles for their site. So there's 6 boxes. And then once they write an article, then they fill that in. Maybe they put the title of the article, maybe they put a picture, maybe they put a happy face, maybe they just color it in, whatever you like. So this is really, you can use bubbles, rectangles, squares. Here they've used 3 people to represent networking with colleagues. So after each meeting, you would circle it or mark it in some way that tells you that you've accomplished that. And then there's some other goals that don't really have that type of drawing. So raising your fees by $15, increasing their hours, updating the homepage. So this is more of like a checklist type of section. And then you always want to include space for another opportunity. So something else that might come up, you then have space to put it in. So this is a great way to keep track of what you have done and what you need to do to get to that ultimate goal. This is sketching a goal. So this is kind of a bridge method. So you're here on this side of the bridge of the space, right? And then your goal is over here on the other side of the space. So you need to somehow get from here to there. So you're going to build a bridge, a bridge to your future. And each line on this bridge or each little space is going to represent a step to reaching your goal. So you can either put numbers and then write down what those steps mean, or just write in little words that can give you a clue. And then finally, over here in this last sketch is crocodiles. You can use crocodiles, you can use whatever you want, but they represent things to avoid or distractions. So you're going to name those crocodiles. What are things that would distract you or that would stop you from being successful in completing your journey across your bridge? So it could be procrastination, it could be naysayers, so people who are not supportive. It could be staying up late, not getting enough sleep, anything like that that might get in your way. What you can also do is use index cards. I found this yesterday. It's a really great tool. You can write your goal or intention or a word of affirmation, something similar to this, a drawing, an image, etc. on each card. And then you hold those cards together with a binder clip. And this makes your goals really portable and reviewable. If there's goals that you accomplish, you just take them out of your pile, and then you can add more cards to your pile to represent new goals. So that's one that I just found yesterday that I thought would be really fun to share. Okay, now this is the last strategy that we're going to go through in a bit more detail. So this is the 3-tier system. So here you can see in the first kind of step, you have this rectangle with a start and a finish. And this represents your stretch goal. So this is your big goal. It's going to be a bit scary, might be outside, it's going to be outside your comfort zone. It's going to take a month or 2 or more to complete. So it's your goal for growth, your big goal. And then here, number 2, we have these sprint goals. 1, 2, and 3. There could be more, there could be less. So these are your smaller goals that will help you get to the stretch goal. And then here, number 3, we have our step goals. So these are smaller things that will go inside of your sprint goals to get you to that point. So for example, it's all the little things you have to do. So it could be daily activities that you need to accomplish. It could be something like a checklist that you need to complete. Those would be represented as these step goals. And then at the end of each sprint goal, once you've achieved this smaller, this kind of medium-sized goal, let's say, you're going to have a little celebration. You're going to recognize that you have done that task, that you've achieved a certain outcome, or you've gotten to a certain point in your action plan. And this is really great for your motivation, because it gives you something to look forward to, and also you're recognizing that you've made an effort. So at the end of each sprint goal, you're going to have a mini celebration. And then once you get to the very end and complete your stretch goal, that's when you have a big celebration. You really recognize the growth that you've done, the work that you've done, the energy you've put in, and you can share that with other people. You can make it a bit more special so that you recognize all of this. Goal setting is a difficult task, and getting through the whole process can take time, and it's not easy. That's why we don't make goals for every part of our lives, because we need to focus on certain things. So having a big celebration is really important. I'm going to show you an example of something that I've done just today, actually. Just a really simple way of showing a goal. So I'm a licensed counseling therapist, and I have to acquire a certain number of hours of experience. So here I've made some little charts for me to color in when I do get to those milestones. It's very similar to those sprint goals. So, and then I've written down here, I'm going to have celebrations for every 500 hours of work, 200 hours of direct contact, 10 hours of supervision, 20 hours of supervision, and then 35 hours of supervision. So at each of these lines, I'm going to have a mini celebration to recognize that I've done that work. This is just a very simple thing that you can create on your own. Okay, back to our presentation. So we have just a couple slides left. So some tips for achieving your goals. As I said earlier, this is a challenging thing to do. So you need to have some things in place that will help you get there. So one thing is to write down your goals, and so that you can track your progress. This is super, super important. If you just have it in your head, it's going to get lost in there. So put it on paper and revisit it. That's the easiest way for you to make adjustments if things aren't working out. It's the easiest way for you to recognize when you are moving forward towards your goal, or getting that feedback that, hey, I'm stuck in one place. Like, what do I need to do in order to get moving again to the next step? Time management. So this is a quadrant system that you can use. So you want to spend most of your time right here in this focus quadrant. So you're going to focus on your long-term strategic goals that are important, but not necessarily urgent. So that's where you're going to put your focus. And then the things that are important and urgent, your short-term crises or problems, you're going to manage those. and resolve them as quickly as you can. Here in quadrant 4, you're going to limit your time wasting activities. So things that are not important and not urgent. When you're working on your goal, you want to limit this time. It's not completely get rid of it, but it's just limiting things like, just procrastination or things like that. And then you're going to avoid distractions and interruptions. So things that are urgent, but that are not important. So if you, for example, have a workplace that's really, really busy, it might be useful for you to maybe get some noise canceling headphones or request a quieter place to work if you're working on something specific. If you're at home, I know if you have children, that can be difficult, but finding time where you don't have all of these extra things going on so that you can really focus on your goal. Accountability and guidance. So you can tell a trusted person about your goal, and you should consider finding a mentor to help you stay on track. It's a really great motivator when somebody else knows what you're doing and will ask you about it. So being able to go to a person and say, hey, I'm struggling. I am not getting to this goal. I need some help. Can you give me some advice? How did you get there? Those kinds of questions are great to be asked to people who've actually who know what you're trying to do and maybe who have gone through it themselves. Flexibility. I've mentioned this before a couple of times. Okay. Sorry, I had something in the chat. Okay, Charlotte. It will be recorded. So this part of flexibility is that your circumstances can change. We've mentioned this before. So your first action plan may need to be adjusted. And that's why we need to schedule time regularly to review our goals. And then finally, I want to mention visualization. So visualization is a very powerful, research-proven tool for skill mastery, goal achievement, and motivation. And I just want to tell you a quick story about how powerful this visualization tool is. So Major James Nesmith, who was in the American military, was captured during the Vietnam War, and he spent 7 years imprisoned in a cage that was 4.5 feet long and 5 feet tall, so very small. Before the war, he was an average golfer who dreamed of improving his mid to low 90s scores. So he wasn't great, but he wasn't awful. While he was imprisoned, and to keep from going insane, he would visualize himself playing on his favorite golf course. He'd imagine everything about it: his clothes, how they felt, the smell of the cut grass, the breeze, the sun, the trees, the birds, the slopes of the course, everything. He visualized every single day for 7 years. And then when he finally was released and he returned to America, he went to play golf at his favorite golf course that he had imagined every single day for 7 years. And even though he had never touched a golf club in all of that time, he shot a 74, which was 20 shots better than his average score before doing this visualization. So there's been a lot of research since that time, and scientists have found that our brain will activate the same parts in our brain, whether you're actually doing the activity or just visualizing it. So this is something that you can harness while you're doing your goal setting, while you're working through all the steps to get through your action plan. Visualize where you want to be at the end. Take some time to just do a little bit of meditation and really focus on what you want to, where you want to get to. It's a great tool. It's effective. It's research proven, and I highly encourage you to do it. At least try it. Okay, and then finally, the skills that you need for goal setting. So goal setting as an umbrella is a skill, but you'll also need, it develops some of that planning skills, self-motivation, time management, because you need to structure that timeline and create that action plan, flexibility, so the ability to adapt to changing circumstances, self-regulation, and then commitment and focus. So it really shows if you put goal setting on your resume and you can talk about a goal that you set and that you achieved, it's very encouraging for an employer to see that. So goal setting is a valuable transferable skill that you can include on your resume. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Here's some online tools that you can use. So this LifeTick one is a virtual goal setting tool. It has all kinds of different templates. It will ask you questions. You can set timelines. It can help you narrow down your goals, all the kind of thing. This one here is a virtual vision board creator. So if you want to be a bit more artistic about your goal setting, you can use this one. This site here has free goal setting printables. So those first couple of pages that I showed you with the goal ladder and the backwards goals. So those are printable. So you just, it's already set up and it has instructions so that you don't have to think about it. And then you just print them off and fill them in. And then here, Lucid Chart is a virtual timeline maker. So this is great if you already have all of your steps, but you just need some way of representing them on a time scale, how long it will take you.
It's something like Gantt chart or something like this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Here are all my references that I used for this presentation. Thank you all for participating. Do you have any questions?
No, it's clear, rich of information, and yeah, it's very important. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so if you do start this process and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so lost, I need help. You can definitely contact our team at employme@mcaf.nb.ca, and I will put my email in the chat as well if you want to contact me directly. There's my email. And you can send me a question, or if you develop your action plan and then you need maybe some guidance or want an opinion on that, just let me know. I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yes, I will be contacting you for sure. I'm currently in the middle of deciding what to do in my career.
Okay.
So still I didn't start action plan or goal, because I'm planning either to go for a startup company, going for full-time contracts, doing contractor as a self-employed. So still I'm deciding which one is there. And this session has helped me a lot for putting the goals that I need to find and then break down these goals. So this will help me to do it on like a reverse engineering methodology to put the goal first and reach to then what's the next step for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you used.
Yeah, I didn't start any action plan or anything, but I will use whatever inputs I get it here to get into the next step.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I'm glad this was helpful for you.
I might reach you out if I need any help setting my plan or the goals. I will be reaching you definitely.
All right. Wonderful. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Ms. Danielle.
Thank you so much, Amin. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. If you don't have any other questions, I just want to remind everybody that our next session is on Friday, and it is called Mastering LinkedIn, which is a wonderful tool for networking and finding employment. So I highly encourage that people attend that.